is Jessie, and today I am making a homemade cast iron skillet pizza in honor of celebrating National Pizza Month in October. This is a no-knead dough that has a texture very similar to focaccia once it's baked. I will be using Kenji López-Alt's recipe from Serious Eats with a couple modifications of my own. This recipe is super easy to do at an at-home oven. In my opinion, maybe the best to do an at-home oven because it doesn't require any kneading, like I said, no tossing. You don't have to worry about transferring it with a pizza peel. And it comes out with a crunchy and chewy crust with a flavorful sauce and great toppings. So I'm really excited to share this recipe with you. So without further ado, in the next clip, I'll get right into it. So we're gonna start with making the dough the night before because it needs to rise for at least 8 hours. So here I am adding 280 grams of all-purpose flour. I'm then adding 7 grams of salt, 3 grams of instant yeast, 6 grams of extra virgin olive oil, and then lastly 200 grams of filtered water. So it's really important to give it time to rise, 8 to 24 hours. The longer it rises, the more flavor and texture it will develop, so it will be better. So here I am combining all of this with a spatula until no dry flour remains. This does take me a while, so I did try and speed up the clip a little bit. Yep, there I go. Scraping the bowl. So after I'm done combining all of this, I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap and leave until room temperature until tomorrow. So this is about 20 hours later, and I'm finally unwrapping my bowl of dough. So of course, you don't have to let it proof for so long. It's 8 to 24 hours, and if your kitchen is warmer, it would rise faster. So check to see how much it's expanded, and if it looks like this, you're good to go. So now, like you can see, I am dusting the top of the dough with some flour. I'm flouring my work surface as well as my hands so the dough doesn't stick to anything. Once that's done, I am going to start turning the dough out onto the floured surface. So here I am doing that. Now that the dough is out, I'm going to use my hands to turn the top of the dough smooth by rotating it and tucking the dough underneath itself with my palms, like so. This was my first time doing it, so you will see that it takes me a couple times to really get it right. You want the bottom to come together. So you'll see when I flip it over how it looks initially. It's pretty spread apart. It shouldn't look like that. So here I am trying to push it even more together. It's almost there. I just decided to pinch the bottom closed. You can see that the top is smooth now, so it's looking good. So now I'm gonna put about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil into my cast iron pan. Mine is a 12-inch pan, so I've been adjusting the recipe so far for that. Once the oil is in, I'm going to put the dough ball in, and I'm going to make sure that the dough is all coated with oil on the bottom and the top, as well as spreading the oil throughout the entire bottom of the pan. So you can see me flipping around the dough here, making sure it's all coated. Once that's done, I'm going to season the oil around the dough. Actually, I'm adding a little bit of salt, oregano, and black pepper. So you'll see me doing that now. I had to wash my hands because they were very oily. So here's the salt. Some oregano. And finally, the black pepper. So now that that's all in, I'm going to use the dough ball to spread it around the bottom of the pan, as well as kind of using my hands to mix around the spices a little bit. And now that that's done, I'm going to cover the pan with plastic wrap again and let it proof for another 2 hours. So here I am probably trying to tear the plastic wrap. So now, about 1 hour after transferring the dough to the pan, I'm going to preheat my oven as hot as it can go. In my case, that was 550 degrees. So here I am doing that. So now that that is preheating, I'm gonna start preparing some of the toppings. So here I am crisping up some salted pork belly. You can use bacon if you'd like. And I'm also preparing the sauce. I'm using about a cup of crushed tomatoes that I am adding a little bit of olive oil here. I am also seasoning it with some salt, some oregano, garlic and onion powder, and black pepper. So you can see me adding all of these ingredients here. I'm just seasoning it to taste, so there are not really any exact measurements for these. Lastly, to the sauce, I'm also adding some homegrown basil that we have, and I'm just tearing that up, and I'm going to mix it all together. So here I'm going to show the toppings that we are using to top our pizza. I have some pineapple, some Baltic Sprats, a fourth of a green bell pepper slice, 2 kinds of salami that I had left over, the crisped up pork belly that I showed earlier, as well as some homegrown basil. For the cheese, we have some freshly grated Parmesan, as well as some full-fat, low-moisture mozzarella, about 9 ounces, and the sauce. And here we can see that the dough has almost expanded to fill the whole pan. So I just wanted to highlight here that it's really important to get full fat, low moisture mozzarella. Otherwise, fresh mozzarella might leak too much liquid. So here it's been 2 hours of the dough. You can see that it's almost expanded to fill the pan, and I'm going to start using my fingers to push it to the sides while also popping any air bubbles that are appearing. You want to make sure that there aren't any air bubbles under the dough either. And once I finish spreading this evenly across the pan, we can start topping. So here is an example of the air bubble that I'm popping. So now that the dough has been pushed all around to the sides, I'm going to start assembling, and of course that starts with the sauce. So as I'm layering on the sauce, I really want to make sure that I'm pushing it all the way to the edge. That will assure that your crust is pretty flavorful. I don't really like on how normal pizzas, the crust will sometimes be very dry and just lack any flavor at all. And once the sauce is baked along with the cheese, it will crisp up very nicely on the edges and it'll be really tasty. So now I'm taking that full fat, low moisture mozzarella and spreading it all around the pizza in the same way as the sauce from edge to edge, making sure the crust will be all crispy. I am finishing that, and then I'm going to add about half of the Parmesan around the pizza. I'm going to use the second half of the Parmesan a little later. So I'm finishing pushing that cheese to the edge, and I'm taking some of my salami and I am tearing it into slightly smaller pieces. I have some pepper salami here and some calabrese, and I'm trying to spread that evenly across the pizza. So I'm following that up with the salted pork belly that we crisped up in the pan earlier, and I'm just trying to evenly distribute that all around the pizza. I'm then going in with the green bell pepper that was sliced, also putting that everywhere. So I'm adding that diced pineapple to the pizza, specifically only on my half because it is my favorite pizza topping by far, but sadly my boyfriend cannot say that he shares the same opinion. So while it looks like a lot, I absolutely love it. And then I'm putting the Baltic Sprats on his end of the pizza, so you can see that divide going down the middle. And then lastly, we can't forget to tear up some basil and put it on top of the pizza. So there is that. I'm finally finishing the last bit of basil on top, and I'm going in with the latter half of that Parmesan as the last topping. And I would suggest putting the Parmesan on after it's finished baking to have a nice melted cheese on top, but it did turn out delicious regardless. And now I'm going ahead and putting it in the oven, specifically on the middle rack, for about 10 to 12 minutes. So now, only 12 minutes later, we are opening the oven and checking in on our pizza. Let's see how it's doing. It looks great. It looks to have some great color on top. We can tell that the top is cooked, but we are going to check the bottom as well. And here we can see that it is looking a little pale. It could use some more color on the bottom. So we're actually going to finish cooking it on the stove so that we don't burn the top. And it's only going to take a couple minutes now on the stove to get that perfectly crispy bottom. So as it's cooking, I am tearing up the rest of that fresh basil on top. We just wanted it to wilt a little while the bottom finishes cooking. Luckily, we didn't let it go too long on the stove. We thought we might have almost burnt it, but it turned out great, very nice. So you want to keep checking it when it's on the stove so it doesn't burn. But here it is on the cooling rack, ready to eat, looking absolutely delicious. Here is my boyfriend cutting it. We are absolutely ready to dig in at this point. It has been a long time awaiting this pizza. Finally, we were able to dig in. We were so excited. Here's my boyfriend absolutely munching down on this pizza. So good. You hear that crunch. It got that thumbs up, stamp of approval. Lastly, here are some shots of our lovely pizza. I want to thank you guys all for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.